get nothing.
Assalamu alaikum. Can y'all hear someone?
Alhamdulillah. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Sayyidina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuhu. Inshallah ta'ala, we'll be starting now. How's everyone doing? Abu Muhammad, how are you feeling, akhi?
Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen. Assalamu alaikum.
You can hear me?
wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Everybody is very low.
I can't hear you.
All right, now.
Malik,
You can't hear me neither?
I can hear you.
I can't hear anyone.
Can you hear me, Malik?
Yeah, I hear both
Malik,
of y'all.
can you hear me?
Yeah, I hear both of y'all.
I can't hear anyone.
Hey, try to turn your volume up.
Can you hear anything, Abu Muhammad?
Yeah, I can hear both of you clearly.
I can't hear anyone.
Turn the volume up. Turn the volume up on your
Hold on, I'm gonna try to log off and come back in because like I said, I can't hear nobody.
Abu Muhammad, can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you loud and clear.
All right, go. I guess you can start, inshallah.
اللهم صل على سيدنا محمد الفاتح لما أغلق وخاتم لما سبق ناصر الحق بالحق وهذه إلى صراطك المستقيم وعلى آله حق قدره مقداره العظيم. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. صلى الله على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما. الحمد لله رب العالمين. أفضل صلاة وتم وتسليما على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. ورضي الله تعالى نادي السادة التابعين وعلماء عاملين وأئمة 40 مجتهدين مقلديهم إلى يوم الدين. أما بعد. الحمد لله رب العالمين. Tonight's discussion on how to deal with trauma according to Quran and Sunnah. This is a broad topic, actually, because you have all different types of trauma. You have all different types of anxieties and depressions and things that are related to mental illnesses, which trauma don't always necessarily associate with mental illness. It's actually events that happen in your life. What's up? What's wrong? What happened?
That way. The door.
Close the door.
The door.
La ilaha illallah. Oh, that's okay, Asma. That's okay, but alhamdulillah. Now, when we look at these illnesses or these sicknesses in the scope of the lens of Quran and Sunnah, then we have to take, you know, say every solution is not the same, not going to be the same effective solution for everybody. You know, some things it give people some time. Some people need time to actually get to a point to where they can fully acknowledge and accept that this is the direction that they have to take. Abdul Mujeeb, I sound like I hear you loud and clear.
Yeah, it's
Can
better
you hear
now.
me?
Yeah, I hear
Right,
you now.
Better now.
Yeah, I hear you now.
All right. So, sometimes it takes some people a little bit longer to actually get through certain things. The Quran and Sunnah that deals with this is not so cut and dry. It's not so cut and dry, and it doesn't work without commitment. You have to actually be dedicated and committed to activating and implementing the cure and the solution to the issue. Sometimes it will never go away. So it's something that you have to continuously work on. So now some things that you establish in your life that remain in place, will be able to help you through working through this condition, through these different types of traumas. Like one particular trauma that people experience, it's a PTSD. Some people never get over it. Some people have to take medication. Some people need relationship with Quran and people of dhikr, you know what I'm saying, remembrance of Allah and dua and salah. I mean, some people, they get through it that way. Some people, they have to have counseling. And counseling is really beneficial for just about anybody. You know what I'm saying? It's sometimes we deal with so much stuff, and because you know what I'm saying, we grew up in we raised in a society to where certain things, we become numb to certain things, that we suppress a whole lot. And in that suppressing a whole lot, once certain triggers hit, it may cause the individual to explode. Now, even with the person talking to somebody, they may not have a means. That may not be a means of it's a means of release, but they need a little bit more of a means of release. You know what I'm saying, to actually help them, to be able to get them to be at a peaceful state. Some people, they may go to the gym or go to the dojo to work off that release that way. Some, they need a combination of all of them, along with dua, Quran, dhikr, salah, meditation, all of these things. I mean, sometimes a person can maintain the things that put them into this trauma. Sometimes a person can't. You know, so an individual who's dealing with a lot like that is not helpful to their mental health and stability, to actually be aloof from people. That's, you know what I'm saying, that's the whole purpose of sohbah, to be around people to actually help you. So not just anybody to have sohbah with, have camaraderie with, but someone who can actually benefit you in regards to, that you can vent to, that you can release to, that, you know what I'm saying, they also understand your condition, and not so necessarily someone that you know what I'm saying, you're not going to someone and fear that they may judge you. Everyone has a sense of judgment, judgment with everybody. Everybody does. You know what I'm saying? To maybe from a small degree to a large degree. But this is what we have to deal with. The only thing about judgment is that a person who is seriously in need and help, in need and in the need of help, of a solution, then they, you know, so if they're not already mentally stable, they're gonna take that judgment as a deterrent. Go use the bathroom as a deterrent. You know, so that open the door. Hold on.
Want to jump in, Saleh?
Assalamu alaikum.
Alaikum rahmatullah.
So while he's coming back, I'll just jump in and make some comments. So my name is Zafirah. I am a licensed professional counselor. Oh, you're back. You want to finish what you were saying? Because I know when people are on a steamroll, I like for them to complete their thoughts.
Yeah, I was gonna wrap it up. I'm gonna have this interruption all through the program, inshallah. So everyone just gonna have to bear with me, inshallah, or be patient myself. But however, you know, it's not just no cut and dry solution. Is what my main point that I'm reaching. And you know, we have to be sincere with asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to assist us and aid us. at the same time acknowledging where we're at and where our state and our level is in dealing with this issue internally. So inshallah, that's all I wanted to touch on for now. So inshallah, Zafirah, inshallah, you could chime in, inshallah.
Yeah. So Habibi, I know that you like reciting surahs, but it's kind of a little distracting, okay? You want to take it upstairs, inshallah, and we'll do some more later? All right. So as I was saying earlier, I'm a licensed professional counselor. I currently started my own business where faith meets mental health. And basically I do relational trauma. And what that basically means is, wait, let me start before I start going into this whole spiel. Everything that I say is for educational purposes only. Please do not try to diagnose, treat anybody that you think may have some symptoms that I may say. Mental health is so complex that you cannot just hear something and think that this is the issue, because a lot of symptoms overlap with one another. And the analogy I always like to use is, you know how when you start having symptoms and you Google it and then Google tells you you're dying, that's how mental health is also. If you try to Google symptoms, they will give you all kinds of stuff that may not be accurate, and you cannot use that. I have gone to school for 7 years and still I am learning and grasping what relational trauma is and how that impacts people's mind, body, and spirit. It's very difficult to really hammer that down. But continue on. With relational trauma, it really impacts your view of yourself, your view of the world, and your view of God. People don't realize how impactful that trauma experiences shape your perspective about current events. So, for example, let's just say you have a child who was abused, physically as a child. And then when they get older, you're like, why do you have issues that when people may say this or say that, you are like upset and you're angry? Because a lot of times there are trigger points, or sometimes people can't understand what you're talking about because they're filtering everything that you're saying through their own life experiences. And granted, we all do that. We all do that. We all listen to people and we hear what we hear based off of our experience of life. And that's one of the reasons why in relationships, a lot of times people fail to communicate because they're communicating differently. They're not thinking the same. And you have to back up a lot and say, hey, what is it that I believe she is saying versus what, or I'm saying she because I'm a female, but he or she is saying versus what is they are really saying to you. Because sometimes we filter everything through that. And I see a lot of people on social media, they say this and they say that. And the biggest problem in our community is the breakdown in families, the breakdown in communities, in the Jamaat. It's so, like, even, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala talks about, building a community and establishing a Jamaat. And those are the people that help you through those difficult times. They are the people that can hold you together in those times that you are failing to, do whatever it is that you want to do. And one of the things that I see a problem in our community is that our Black men, and I a lot of women probably going to shoot me dead because of this. A lot of Black women think that they can raise Black men. You can't. You cannot raise a black man. That man is only going to be as strong as you are as a woman. And then you wonder why some of these men emotionally seem like women, because they were raised by women. And us as women sometimes utilize and use our children to get back at black men. Sometimes, and vice versa, a man don't want to take care of his responsibilities because he want to get back at the mom, or he just don't understand how important his presence is in a home. As someone who is a woman, I believe, a lot of times people always say like, oh, a woman's place in a home is very, very important. Absolutely. But I think a man's presence is much more important. Men protect the family from the outside world. Men provide for the family. Men, as a woman, and a lot of times, I'm quite sure people are not going to agree with me, but as a woman, the touch of a black man helps stabilize women emotionally. Touch is very, very important. And you will be surprised at the peace that you as a woman will find in your husband if you allow your husband, not allow, if you get out of your own way and let your husband lead the family.
May I ask a
Now,
question? May I ask a
yes.
question for you? What about the women that was traumatized and hurt by the touch of a man? What are some of the procedures that they can go through to help them with that type of trauma themselves as well?
So I think it depends, because two things can happen if somebody was traumatized by a man sexually, physically, or whatever. Sometimes either, especially if it's done during childhood. First, I'm going to do childhood first. If it's done during childhood, two things can happen. They become hypersexualized, where they sleeping with everybody in the neighborhood, and people say, oh, she's this and she's that, not realizing that more than likely somebody in the home is touching her. Or they can completely shut down, and you see these people who are 40 and 50 years old and never been in a relationship because of that. Now, as a man, so everything is about balance. And that's why I said, please don't, crucify me and hold me to a standard, because some things is a lot of things are about balance. So I may not always be able to show you the other side, but I'm going to try to do as best as I can. It's not nobody's responsibility to heal anyone. People come into the door talking about something, you know I've been through this, and you know I've been through that, and you doing this and you doing that. Sir, ma'am, your problems is your problems. You have to deal with them. However that is, whether it's seeking counseling, friendships, whoever. However, too, your partner can assist you with your traumatic experience. And a most important thing is to find out what makes her feel safe. And that's going to be trying to figure that out, because she may not even know what makes her feel safe. From someone who's a survivor of childhood sexual abuse, I didn't realize how important, I found out how important it was for me to feel safe actually when I went to a chiropractor, getting my back adjusted. And he said, don't worry, I got you. You can relax. And my mind was eased. And that's when I realized, Zai, you got a problem. And you need to go seek additional assistance. And I've only, in my, few marriages that I've had, only had one husband, who made me feel absolutely physically and mentally safe with him. One. You want to say something?
Now I said subhanallah, just thinking about that, that just it makes me think about the shortcomings of us, right? That, and you said it with so much conviction that only one man made you feel like that, right? And my other question to you is, because I like having these conversations with women, because it allows us to know where our shortcoming is as men if we listen enough, right? So my question to you is, what did he do that the last person didn't do that made you feel comfortable again?
So what he did, I can't really, with the others, I was in a different place in my life. So I attribute every breakup that it's my fault. That's just me. That's just how I am, because it allows me to do what I need to do to be better for my next relationship. So whatever they did, it's irrelevant. How can I be better? I had a lot of codependency issues, and that's why those relationships fell, because I was basically a husband in those relationships. That's just to be, paying all the bills and all that other kind of stuff. But in this relationship, what made me feel comfortable was that he opened up to me, very, like, he really exposed himself. He really exposed himself, and basically was like, it made me feel like I could trust him with me. And when we talked, the first time we met each other and we talked, I'll never forget the words that he said. I would take this and I will remember it forever. He said, "You are safe with me." That was so profound in their relationship that he even thought to say that you are safe here, which allowed me to put down a lot of barriers that we probably could have had starting out at the beginning of the relationship. But another thing too is that I see a lot of people, on social media talking about, I'm bipolar. Like, a woman be like, I'm bipolar. No, sis, you're not bipolar. You just got problems. That's just you just got problems. People who do that, it really bothers me, because you're making a mockery about people who are really suffering and really experiencing mental health issues because of chemical imbalances. So I will wish that people would stop saying, I'm bipolar or I'm depressed. You may not be depressed. You're just sad, or you're just grieving. You're not depressed. And a lot of times people just, they throw around these terms and not realizing the implications of what you're really saying and putting out there. And I wanted to touch on something that Imam Muhammad said about judgment. Yes, everybody has judgment. Sometimes people are blinded by their judgments and stuff like that. But it's so important, especially as a therapist, to try as hard as you can not to judge a person from what they're going through. Because once you do that, your ability to help them goes away. Because now all you're thinking about is what's wrong with this person, why can't they just see their problems? And you start to judge them on stuff that they may not have control over. Oh, someone said that they that a black woman cannot raise a black man. There have been many of men who contributed one way or another to not only the African American community but Islamic community as well, raised by a single black woman. I will agree, though, that a black woman cannot raise a man to be his complete self, because there is still a half of him that is missing to be impacted him positively or negatively in his life. And I think that the fact that you said that you disagree with me, but at the end of it, you basically agreed with me, because again, it's nuances in anything that I say. Of course, obviously, I'm a single mother who's raising two black children, two black men. I'm doing it. They appear to be well adjusted, but that part that they need from a male, I can never give them. I could never give them. I don't know what it's like to have to shield a family from the world. How can I instill in them what I don't have? So the fact that you said that there be still a half of him that is missing, how is it that they're being raised to be a black man? And I think that sometimes, again, we have to realize what people are saying and not filter it through our own experiences. Because I wasn't necessarily saying that like a woman couldn't raise a man and he's just going to like magically disappear and die. Like obviously women do it. But you have to realize our deficiencies, because when you keep having that kind of mentality that you can raise a black man, then you start pushing your men away and then you wonder why you don't have a man. What are some of the messages you use for your clients who deal with some of these traumas? I use a lot of CBT, so a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy. So basically what that means is, because whenever a traumatic event happens to someone, they develop beliefs about themselves. So back to myself, because I always use myself as an example. I'm sexually abused. Now I believe I'm worthless. I believe that I deserved it. I believe that it's my fault. I believe that, yeah, it's so short. I start believing all of these false narratives. So what happens is when they come see me and they start talking, I listen. See, the thing is, you have to listen to what people say and you have to listen to what people don't say. I know that sounds crazy, but you'll be surprised how consistent people are when it comes to trauma. I can't tell you how many times I say the same thing over and over and over to different clients that's experiencing the same thing. We all like to think that we're different. No, I'm not in a session, Habibi. We all like to think that we're different, but we're so similar too. And the shaitan will play on those insecurities that you develop from trauma. Now, the funniest thing is I was thinking about this and I said, do you know why Shaitan is so successful at his attacks that he does? It's because of how similar that we are, that a lot of times when we experience trauma, we all go through the same kind of cyclical patterns. It may look different, the event may be different, but the coping strategies that people use when they are traumatized is usually similar. You know, can't tell you how many times I've seen men who have been traumatized by their mother reenact those traumas with their spouses. They'll get a spouse that act just like their mom, or a girl will get a man that acts just like her father, so they can recreate their trauma to master it. It's all about mastery. They try to master their trauma. Hi, baby. I want to say something. What you want to say to me? This one is so short. Which story is so short? Yes. I don't know what it is. What is it? It's Zalzala. Alhamdulillah. It only has one ayat. It only has one ayat. Okay. So that's why Shaitan is really successful in his attacks, because again, when people are traumatized, a lot of times they either do one or two things, because it's never balanced. They either become extreme in whatever it is, or they go the opposite way. It's always to the extreme. And so I'm trying to restructure their thought process and how they think about events, if that all makes sense.
Now, is the because you said it's 2 stages, right? Now, out of these 2 stages, I kind of, I was understanding what you was meaning, because you either extreme or passive, right? Now, with the passiveness, right? Can the passiveness be more worse than extreme? Because extreme is more of an outrage, which is, broken out at that time. the passive can also lead up to being built up, right? You can build things up more. Now, can this be more devastating than extreme at some times?
No, they're both detrimental in their own way. So whenever somebody becomes traumatized, their body systems starts working. People don't realize that's why your heart starts to race, you start to sweat, all those kinds of things happening when you get upset, angry, or whatever. But someone who is what is it called? I always forget what it's called. Oh my goodness. Whenever someone goes to the opposite end and they become passive, their body systems are still going off. They're just not saying it. And if I had to say, I probably, they're more detrimental to themselves because nobody realized that they're suffering. No one realized that they are suffering. And that may be the kid that you'll be like, oh my God, I have such a great kid. He's quiet. He doesn't talk. He's just great. And then you see them as adults, and then they have schizoid personality disorder. Never have a relationship. Don't know what that looks like. Like, I have a cousin right now, he's going on 30. I have only heard him ever talk once in my life. Once. Never had a job, never had friends, never had anything. And I know for sure that my family don't understand it. Well, he's probably not suffering because with schizoid, they don't care. But that he suffered so much to the point that it made him not care about nothing. Then you have the other extreme, where then you have borderline personality disorder, you have the narcissistic personality disorder, and the psychopathic disorder, and all those things. How can you co-parent with your spouse when you can't get along in
Dissociative
Islam?
identity disorder.
You said dissociative identity disorder?
Dissociative identity disorder as well.
Yeah. Histrionic, it's a lot of personality disorders. When one person moves on in a relation, how do you make everyone happy in a new relationship? So if you are in a relationship and you're trying to make it, work and things like that, that's why I say it's so important to have men, because with men check other men. That's just the reality of it. Men check other men. So if I'm married to my husband and my child's father is creating issues and drama, you can talk to my husband. One thing you can never do is make anyone happy but yourself. No one. I mean, we love to say that, like, oh, my spouse don't make me happy. Well, congratulations. You just realized that you're in a relationship. It's not their responsibility to make you happy. It's their responsibility to add to your happiness. But your happiness is between you and the law. Because we become happy when our state is aligned with the Quran and the Sunnah. We try to tiptoe around things and we try to make ourselves happy outside of Islam. It doesn't work. It will never work. It just will never work when you try to do anything outside of Islam. Been there, done that. There are some things that some people will only understand you to their level of maturity. And there's nothing you can do about it because they're filtering everything you're saying through their own trauma. And I think that sometimes people don't understand the impact, what trauma really looks like. And trauma is not always those big things that, like, oh, his mom used to go upside his head every day. I know he was physically abused. Oh, I know she was sexually abused. Oh, I know they was emotionally abused because you call them all kinds of dummies. But some things are subtle, especially emotional trauma, because that's the ones that their mom be like, hey, that makes me really sad when you're dead, or that makes me really sad when this is happening. That's traumatic for a child. Your child is not responsible for your emotional well-being. People use their children in that way to take care of them. That's traumatic. We may not see it as so, but it's not their responsibility to emotionally take care of you. But we do that to our children. And then you wonder why he or she keeps getting into relationships where the person is using them and the person is dependent because they're codependent. They wrap their self-worth into believing that if I don't take care of other people, I'm not lovable. It
brought you back. It brought you back.
you don't.
Had you stuck for like 10 seconds.
It really did, because it makes me cry. Like, I want to cry right now. It makes me cry, the amount of people that I see all the time that has so much relational trauma. Do you give dawah or nasiha to clients during sessions, or to follow a particular approach? And can you relay who was the founder of this approach and it could be utilized by a Muslim seeking assistance as a therapist? So, I do give dawah and nasiha during sessions. However, this might blow your mind or it might not. I have Muslim clients that come and I ask them, hey, do you want the Quran and Sunnah to be a part of your treatment? They'll say yes. They will say yes. And I'm going to give you an example. And then when you give it to them, they drop out. So I had a sister come in and ask me, she said, she said, well, her husband was cheating and he had a baby on her. And he said, well, I just want to marry the sister. And I'm like, well, alhamdulillah, you should marry her. He's like, but she don't want me to. Who's the man? You or her? You or her. So then it's like, but you're okay with him sleeping around but not marrying someone. She like, yes. I just want to know where he's at. And it just blows my mind. And I'm like, so you okay with him cheating but don't want him to have another wife? Yes. Okay. Then she continues and she's like, yeah, we want to work on his rap career. You do realize that's haram, right? Well, yeah. And what happens when people are in the music industry and entertainment? What comes with that? Women. They like women. I said, so again, you're trying to be happy outside of the Quran and Sunnah and wondering why you're not happy.
This sounds like a conversation we had before. Imam Khalil, are you there?
What if a man chooses between relationships?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, you remember you said exactly that probably like 4 episodes ago when you spoke about that a woman would be mad that he marries someone but doesn't care that he's fornicating with the woman.
Mm-hmm.
And now coming from a man's perspective, right? From a man perspective, why do you think the man is scared to take that step to marry that woman despite how the woman feels?
Because he's naturally, right, afraid, because it's like, yo, I'm dealing with 2 women and they know about each other. So he's fearful in his approach. You know why most men take that kind of like, when some men, when they approach polygyny, in a relationship with polygyny, by default, they behave as if they're doing something haram, right? They don't want the wife to know about the other wife yet. You know, and then they'll be like, it's just only in the beginning, and then it goes on for a long period of time. As long as they can get away with it, they do things, you know, like, you know, all or the whole how the whole thing happens, and then also he takes the approach like, oh man, my girl gonna flip out. I mean, my wife is gonna flip out. So naturally, he's already prepped. He's already like coming in with that mind state that, you know, almost like he's approaching, you know, approaching a girlfriend. So when you have somebody that's, you know, you have a woman, most men are cool engaging in polygyny as long as the wife says it's okay. I don't care how much you be like, yeah, I'm the man, I'm the man. That stuff only go but so far. Most of the things that brothers do is only to make the woman feel like she's in control, having a woman talk to the other woman before they get married. That's only to satisfy her. It's not getting no benefit for the man whatsoever. It satisfies her. You know what I mean?
No, it doesn't.
All of these
Wait,
different things
I want to
that
say something.
brothers
It don't
do.
even satisfy us. It doesn't even
No, it
satisfy
don't.
us.
No, it don't. It actually makes her more emotional and upsets her. You know, so yeah, you know, and if you look at how the Prophet ﷺ handled things, like, you know, when Aisha radiallahu ta'ala anha, you know, she was hiding in the cut when he got married, I believe it's to Zafirah, right? First she seen Zafirah, right? When he seen her, she was like, did Rasulullah ﷺ see you yet? Right? She said she knew at that moment he was gonna marry her when she seen her, right? Then she turned around, she's hiding in the cut, and he says, come on out, Aisha, I know you over there. Where us, on the other hand, we like jumping through, you know, we swearing people each other to secrecy. Brother, don't say anything, you know, make sure. And then, you know, and then the other person like, I'm gonna tell my girlfriend. So we make a scandal out of marriage. Period. We by default, you know. But I'm a digress. This is about the good sister today. We're gonna let her do her thing, inshallah.
No, but I have to agree with you. It doesn't, you know, again, I actually found more peace in polygyny than I had in monogamy. And I'm going to say again for the women in the back. I had more peace in polygyny than I had in monogamy. To the point that I do not want a monogamous relationship ever again. I don't. Yes.
This is another topic some of us brothers speak about, right? I wouldn't be me if I didn't ask. Right now,
Yeah.
coming from a woman,
Mm-hmm.
right? Because sometimes we can be biased. Is it because what I see, right? What I see is that a lot of times when women wants to be, right, and you know, a co-wife, which outside of, you know, that is a sunnah, right? Outside of that is due to them not wanting to answer to others, not wanting to feel vulnerable again, not wanting the full responsibility. Now, could you say about yourself, right? I could be wrong. That some of the cases too, that you don't want to feel vulnerable again, and that you're scared of getting hurt yourself too as a woman?
No, because remember that one man that I told you made me feel safe? That was the one man that I had polygyny with. And I was very open and vulnerable to him. So it's possible to be vulnerable to your husband and be in polygyny. It takes a certain kind of man to do that, but it's possible. But the reason why I really want to is because I don't have to be a wife every day. What?
That's what I'm saying. You want to do your thing. That's all. You want to do your own thing. I just said that. You get what I'm saying? So that's why I had to ask.
I don't have
I
to
had
be
to
a
ask.
wife every day. I don't gotta cook every day. I don't gotta do. I could let my hair down. And again, like, I'm not gonna say this is true for all women, but I know being someone who, now what if you're getting married and you just want to enjoy your husband at least the first 5 years of marriage and not experience polygyny until you had a chance to get to know your husband? Go ahead, get some candy. I think that's kind of, and of no disrespect, I think it's a little naive to think that you are going to get to know someone in 5 years. 5 years ago, I was a different person. 5 years from now, I'm going to be a different person.
5 years, you're gonna be a different person.
Mind your business.
I mean, I like it.
So, you're unless you're stagnant. I mean, but if you're constantly evolving, things change in 5 years. You know, goals change, thoughts change, how you think things change. You know,
I'll get it.
yes.
I have to grab a handful though.
Habibi, come on, take these. Go sit down. Yes. Imam Muhammad.
Assalamu alaikum.
Right.
Hey, can you explain for us what is meant by the term trauma bonding?
Yeah, I'll get a different flavor.
Trauma bonding. So.
Mom, I can get that one.
Go get it.
Because reason why I asked the question, because you could have a brother who's married to a sister, and they experience the same type of trauma. Like this sister. I'm gonna give you an example. A sister and a brother, they witnessed a murder together. They didn't know each other. They was just witnesses, but they saw the same murder. They didn't know each other, but the person who got killed, they knew him. They both knew him. So later on, say 10, 15 years later, they meet each other and realize that they knew each other from before.
Mm-hmm.
They remember that incident. One may have smelled smelled a smell of the cologne that he was wearing, and it triggered it. The other one, they may have seen something on TV that's related to it, and that triggered theirs. And you know what I'm saying, they had a discussion about it, and they bonded with each other from that.
So trauma bonding can happen that way. And the thing about trauma bonding, that's the most difficult kind of relationship after emotional abuse to get out of. It's literally an addiction, literally, because your mind literally starts producing, like when you two are going through stuff, it's literally producing dopamine, that's like that get high feeling, and you're literally high off your partner. You can become trauma bonded in a relationship, not necessarily because you experience the same trauma, but you two start to traumatize each other based off of previous trauma. Because again, you show up to your relationship. So it comes a point in time in people's lives, and I'm going to say this, especially, I'm going to say it's for both sex, but I'm just saying for women because women are more vocal about it. But sis and sir, in any relationship that fails, you are the problem. I don't care what that person did, you are the problem. Why you are the problem? Have you ever looked at all your relationships and realized that they all ended, or you all experienced the same thing? It's because you showed up to the relationship. That's not to say that. So like for me, every relationship that I've ever been in, I was cheated on. Every single one. So how is it that I continue and keep finding people that is going to cheat on me? Because I am the problem. Obviously, it's something that I'm seeking in that person, and it's just like, bam, got it. This fits my narrative of what a relationship should be. Or a male who keeps getting into relationships with women who cheat on them. And then you're like, wait, what? Like, what's going on? It's you. You are seeking these relationships for whatever reason. I don't know. That would be something that I would have to do an assessment about. But sometimes we start to think that we have to fight for people's love. And in our community, that's the most detrimental thing that we can do, because if you're Black and you live in Philly, you've been traumatized. I don't care what you say, you just have been. Whether it's from your homies on the streets and drugs and this and that, gun violence, absent father, absent mother, all those kinds of things, you have been. And when you don't, wait, I'm gonna back up some. Do you know that people who are atheists, a lot of them, not all, but a lot of them have daddy issues? And you might think, like, what is the relationship? Because how can you think that a God would be a loving God if your father wasn't loving? And this is how our trauma impacts the way we view God. And so being careful and loving on your children.
Some men are not affectionate. Also, some women are not affectionate. Some women, they only affectionate to their children or their parents. But someone who is new, it takes them some time to get used to them. So say, for example, woman, she get into a new relationship. For the first, whatever the period of time is that she need, is going to build up to the point where she's going to eventually be affectionate with that spouse. Some men are the same way. And some men never experienced how it feels to be loved by their mother or their father.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And that's how the trauma is showing up in that relationship. And I feel like, I have a unique position where, like, when stuff like that happens, I don't take it personal. Like, so if I was to get married to somebody and they're not affectionate, it's like, I'm not going to take it personal. But a lot of people do, not realizing that the things that we are doing within the relationship, it's all past history that's showing up today. Actually, I'm going to read this quote, one of my favorite quotes. Where did I put my, Eli, give me my, that paper right there. No, I mean the whole book thing. Yes, give it to me. Thank you. So one of my favorite quotes, it says, consider for a moment that what you call your personality is actually just a composite of behaviors, habits, and behavioral patterns you develop to cope with trauma. Now ask yourself, who am I outside of my pain? Who would I be if I stopped living as a product of my story? Have you anybody, I'm gonna ask the panel, have anybody ever really asked themselves, why am I the way I am?
Yeah, I used to ask, well, I still ask myself that all the time.
Have you ever like think about what you've been through and relate it back to what you're currently dealing with today?
Yeah, all the time. And I realized a lot of my traumas came from a lot of death, right? And not death of friends, right? But a lot of death of family, loved ones, just, dealing with the issue how, like, the Prophet ﷺ did, I buried myself 3 kids. My oldest is in a wheelchair. My little cousins, that's like my brothers, they passed at 8 and 10. And I was a kid at the time. So outside of that, and going through that type of stuff, then you think about, dealing with dunya, that, the men that, if I had problems, the men that I could come to, I couldn't go to them because they're addicts. So all the time, it was just that, anything I went through, it was just me. So I had to learn how to just trust in me. If I got a problem, it's me. I'm going to handle it.
Hyper independence.
Right. And that was always the problem. Like, I don't trust nobody doing a job unless my hands is involved in it. Right. And that was one of the problems too. You know, so when I have problems, I feel as though I can't call nobody, I can't talk to nobody. But then where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made that a pro is that I learned how to rely on Him in these situations. So it was a pro and a con, but that's what turned it into trauma. You know, and just think about all the other street stuff. Like I once cried to my brother before. My little brother called me, and about all the things that I've been through and that he's seen. He once said to me, "Bro, you still not sleeping?" Right? And you know, just everything dealing with trauma. You know, paranoia, being in the streets. You know, all these type of things. You know, and it made me cry because he said it's recent. I'm like, dang, that was back then, bro. You remember that I used to just be out here. I didn't sleep. I was paranoid. You remember all that stuff? And he said, yeah, I remember that. And it made me sad. You know what I mean? So yeah, I think about that stuff all the time.
You were going to say something?
No, I was gonna like piggyback off of something that he had said about where his traumas come from. You know, a lot of my PTSD come from experiencing certain deaths. I mean, with family, friends. You know, I've buried like 7 children. As a matter of fact, one of my sets of twins that survived, he had hit me up today and asked me what oil did I put on. This is while I was in Juma. He texted me and said, what oil did you put on Uthman, put on his twin? And without thinking, I was going to say the same oil that I put on your grandfather. But then I had to remember he didn't wash and shroud my father with me. So I had to tell him the name. So I asked him, you know, because he's not like with my sons, they're not open to like talk about certain things that's bothering them. They bottle it up. So it's like I have to like give them a little space and then like, you know, talk to them and to get them to like open up to me. And normally it only happens when it's just me and them. They can't do it in the office. So I asked them, you know, I said, do you want that oil? He was like, no, I'm okay. I just wanted to know. You know what I'm saying? Shukran. I'm like, that's fine. You know, but the thing is that everybody that's in my family that I wash and shroud, I put this same oil on them. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, even like one of my cousins, before he, like some years before he had passed, we had a real big fallout. Then like maybe 2 years close to before he passed, after that, you know, we settled our differences and we made up. When he died and we went to go wash and shroud him, they was looking for his body. I'm like, he's right here. I mean, he's as soon as the first table we come in. So it was like a lot of my issues come from that as well. My oldest son, he kind of like experienced the same thing, because when Uthman returned to Allah, then some years later, his little brother from his mother's side had got killed the next year after his mother died, after my ex-wife died. So it's like my stuff is related to death. I have like very little trauma related to relationships, but that's normally that type of trauma I always deal with in a certain manner or method, to where it's not really talked about. I mean, it's not carried over to any other relationship after that. You know, so
Yeah, I would have to beg to differ about it's not being carried over. Everything we experience.
I'm talking about with me. I don't carry any of that over. I don't judge 2 relationships the same, whether it's polygyny or monogamy. I don't compare anything. I mean, I just let everything flow like organic.
No, it's not necessarily about comparing. It's about, okay, so let me ask you this. Would you say consistently you're the same person with different people? In a like not like, of course, like I'm hood in the streets, I'm professional at work, No, but in general, like your values, principles, and everything is consistent across the board.
I'm the same. I'm the exact same person with everybody.
Mm. So
the only thing that if I have to adjust anything, it's the only thing that I would adjust is what do I pick up from them in regards to their seriousness or their what they're lax in. And I may adjust in regard adjust some of my views or some of my ways of approach on how to help them, and that's the only thing, because I was married to a sister, and she had one of her traumas. Soon as she smelled Old Spice, it triggered off a childhood trauma, right? And sometimes she'll have these dreams. Also, I had discovered it was some spiritual stuff going on with her too. So I have certain methods that we have to take in regards to inside the guidelines of Sharia that I have to take to be able to treat that illness, treat that spiritual illness. And it's something that is very delicate, because if I wasn't married to her, I wouldn't have been able to treat her. All right. So if it's someone that I'm not close with, if I try to say, for example, I treated someone that I'm not close with, then I would have to treat them, but I would have to coach them on how to treat themselves.
So
that's like the only thing that I like adjust. That I'm not the same with everybody.
So so I see a lot of men also, and men are the scariest and the most dangerous. The most dangerous thing to a woman is a man. And if you're not aware of yourself, you can be very dangerous to a woman.
Yeah, because I'm petty. And I bring that in. Then I'll bring that in. I'm petty. I'm one of them. I'm one of them guys. Didn't you say you was gonna do this, that at 12:30, at 1:35? I'm that type of petty. And yeah, I bring that in. But the reason why I'm like that, is because I wear my heart on my sleeve, right? And I'm the type of person that, I weigh my thing on can I live and die for this person? Live and die for this person. I'm willing to give my life for this person, and I'm willing to die to protect this person. If I can't be that type of person for that person, then I don't want to be involved, because that's the same energy I want from you, right? I want you to live for me first. Live for me. Live for me. Be the best you can be for me. As just saying as a husband or as a friend, right? I'm expecting you to be and try your best. And we all gonna fall short, but that's what I'm here for. You're trying, we're trying. So that's how I weigh, my relationships. Can I live and can I die for this person? If I can't, I feel as though, I don't need to be involved in it. That's just me. I'm saying, and I'm petty. I'm petty.
But the reason why I'm saying the most dangerous thing to a woman is a man is because, first I want to answer her question. Why don't a lot of Muslims seek counseling? For some reason, it's kind of strange to me, actually, that we look at mental health as something is so wrong with you that you're sometimes ashamed. Sometimes it's just, I don't believe in, psychology. Allah got me. And alhamdulillah, I totally agree with you. Allah has you. Absolutely. But have you ever considered that maybe Allah put somebody in your life to help you more? Just to facilitate, his qadr. And I don't think people realize that, because if you broke your leg, you're not going to say, Allah gonna heal it. No, you better go to the doctor and say, oh, Allah, can you heal my leg? Like, don't just sit in the house and think that this is going to happen. You have to actively do something. You have to, what was it that I want to make sure I get it right, because I don't want to, lie on the law. But he will not change anything until you change what's within yourself. You have to do something. You cannot just sit there and think like he gonna change it, and you did nothing. You just sat there. It's just not going to work. So I hope that answers your question. But the reason why I wanted to say that the most dangerous thing to a woman is a man is because I believe the statistics that in the United States, I want to say Pennsylvania, but I'm gonna just say the United States to be nice, to be generous. 4 women a day dies from domestic violence. 4 women a day. Women die in childbirth. When women get married, our life expectancy actually goes down a little bit. Now, it's the qadar of Allah, but our life expectancy goes down. But men's life expectancy when they get married goes up.
I got a question about that.
Yes.
All right, so if men's life expectancy goes up, why in a lot of marriages that they be married to someone dies, the first person that dies the husband?
That's just maybe so wait a minute. So you're confused. You're confusing.
Only reason why I said that because I've seen it. One, my father was married to my mother's for like 40 something years. He died first. I mean, so it's like it's only very seldomly I see marriages to where the wife dies first. Like one of my mentors, his wife died first. While she was on her deathbed, she was looking for him another wife. and he told her, he said, "No, don't worry about it. I already got somebody in mind." Lo and behold, the sister that he had in mind, she had already was trying to plug him with. He already had the plug. So that's what I'm saying. I don't know.
No, so I get what you're saying, but the thing is, women live longer than men, so that's why it seems like that. Yeah. So, like for example, like say if men expectancy is 50, a woman's will be 55. However, because they are married, they might be 53, and a man might go up to 52. So he's still going to die first. But he lives longer. And trust me, I don't think it's because we don't stress y'all out. No.
Beyond stress.
It's just less.
What's beyond? What's
but
beyond
let's be
stress?
honest. Who makes your doctor's appointments, and make sure that you get your physical every year? Make sure you go to the endocrinologist, the urologist, or.
And that's the thing. Like in every situation with me, it was me that did the appointments and did this and did that. My health. You get what I'm saying? But it goes back to what I said with me is that if I feel as though, if it goes back to, like I said, my trauma, that I feel as though I have to do it, because if I don't do it, it won't get done. And a lot of times, the marriages I was in, it ended up being that way. And then they say, okay, if he's going to do it, well, hey, I'm not going to do anything. He's going to make sure everything's okay. You get what I'm saying? Whether if I'm sick, hurt, it was one time in one of my marriages where I had a broke hand. Now I wasn't supposed to do anything. Hand, it was completely broke. Couldn't do anything. And the person looked at me and said, "What are we going to do?" "What do you mean, what are we going to do? I'm injured. What do you mean?" But then it goes to that, especially with our people, that I feel as though that sometimes that, when people see that someone is that independent and strong, they feel as though they can lackadaisical a little bit in our communities.
Yes.
You get what I'm saying? And then I think that causes a lot of trauma too, where we're putting more on someone and when expecting this person to take up the slack when we don't, when we should be picking up on certain things. So You know, that's just my, like I said, that's my view. I'm Mr. Petty.
No, I
don't really
understand.
know
I totally agree. I would like to ask Crystal, could she reword her question when she said, how do we begin to heal our childhood trauma when we're trying to change and have a healthy relationship so we can get married to our new spouse to be able to worship Allah? Because when it comes to childhood traumas, it depends. Like, so how I work with somebody, I use CBT consistently, usually, which is cognitive behavioral therapy, but my approach may be different based off someone's temperament. So what that means is, like, I'm more assertive in nature. That's just me. So when I started going to therapy, I had this Asian guy who was very, like, timid. I'm like, this ain't gonna work. They're like, what? They're like, why it's not gonna work? I said, because he ain't gonna tell me the truth. He ain't gonna just be upfront and honest. Like, just say what you gotta say. And he wasn't like that. So now I got somebody new. I don't really care for her, but she's better. Whatever. Alhamdulillah. But depending on their temperament is how I work with people. So if I notice that someone is a little bit more shy, I may say, hey, like, how are you doing? And what do you want to talk about today? Well, what does that look like? And I might be more softer in approach. And it's been times where I told people, like, they'll be talking, and I'll be like, I really don't care about what you're talking about right now. And they'll be like, and I'll be like, because you know that's unimportant right now. Talk about what's important. And they'll be like, you're right. Well, this is what's really important. Okay. Some people, I just cut them straight up. That's unimportant. Why are you saying that? It doesn't make sense. When simply performing a ruqya, performing daily dhikr, seeking Tawbah, reading the Quran consistently, or increasing ibadah be more beneficial to a believer when dealing with trauma? Yes.
Can I address this one? All right. So in regards to performing ruqya, one with ruqya is something like that. Ruqya is a method that is very sensitive, because when you perform a ruqya, before you perform a ruqya, you have to know the signs, or what is happening in the individual's life that may bring about the need to perform a ruqya. Some people may not need a ruqya; they may need medication, they may need therapy. However, in performing a ruqya, you know what I'm saying, there's for example, if the person is your family, you're not a professional, you know how to perform a ruqya, but this is not your profession, this is all that you do, right? What the individual is dealing with spiritually for that ruqya, it may be something greater than you have the ability to handle. Like for example, I know a brother, and this brother, he was one of my mentors. He had this was before he went to go fight in Afghanistan on the side of the Mujahideen back in the 80s. But he had in his family, he has this spiritual illness in his family. So what happened is that the sheikh, he tied him up, and it was like 20 brothers in the room, and the sheikh that was there, he was getting ready to perform the ruqya, but the brother snapped out at whatever he was his state, and he had said, if there's anyone in this room that has not made tawbah for any major sins that they had committed, they need to leave the room. So everybody left the room. All the brothers that was there, they left the room. So right after the sheikh performed the ruqya, the brother came out fine, but whatever was with him followed the sheikh home. One, because this was his profession, but who he was performing a ruqya on was someone that he wasn't related to. And in regards to that particular type of ruqya, that it's dangerous, because they go after generations of your lineage. So now, do you have ruqyas that is related to someone who put the iron on you, will have certain things that's like disrupting your development. Like you can't make salat on time. You always having relationship problems. That that type of ruqya, no, you know what I'm saying, normally fixes everything else of where you be able to perform daily at the car. You'll be able to make it. It becomes easier to make Toba. It becomes easier to do good deeds. It becomes easier to abstain from evil deeds. You know, it becomes easier to increase your ibadah. You know, sometimes ruqya is not always the answer, but when you looking at yourself or looking at the conditions of people's conditions, it can be a part of the solution in addressing it. If Jamila, if you understand where I'm coming from, because all the time, sometimes like me, for example, sometimes I know when it's time for me to do a ruqya, right?
Ooh.
Yeah, sometimes I know when it's time for me to do a ruqya. So either I do it myself or I have one of my brothers performing it for me, and I'm doing the ruqya, reading the ayats and the du'as that's related to the ruqya. You know what I'm saying, for myself. And a lot of times it's done while hijama is being performed. Sometimes the blood will come out super black, and the whole all of the blood that's in the cup is a clot. That's, you know what I'm saying, that ruqya, it was something going on. After that, everything is easy. Control my high blood pressure is controlled. Everything else is controlled. Able to get up one time, you know what I'm saying, without an alarm clock for Fajr. You know what I'm saying? Able to do all of my adhkar, I mean, that I do on a normal, consistent basis at this particular times. You know, so it's like sometimes you have to evaluate what the person's state is. They may need this, and especially evaluate your own state.
Yes. One of the people said that labeling calling a black woman strong and independent is traumatic. It absolutely is. It absolutely, because then we start becoming hyper independent, and then we say, "Oh, we don't need a man," but then we trying to raise men. It's just a cycle. It's cyclical. Then you have, the woman. Oh, I don't need a man because I don't know. It just doesn't make sense to me. Because my thing is, then, well, sleep with yourself then. I don't know. Comfort yourself. I mean, granted, you can, but for how long? Marriage as a woman, not saying every woman, some people, whatever, even though I contribute that to trauma, but every woman that I know seeks and wants healthy relationships. Don't mean they're going to get it, but they want that. They want a man. And that's just really like the bottom line of it. Whatever's preventing you from getting a man and keeping a man, that's on you. And you have to look, and I'm not saying it to you, whoever wrote it, but that's on them who can't get or keep one. And it comes to a point that you have to look at yourself when it comes to relationships. It's just really the bottom line of that. But also I wanted to say, back to like trauma, it's called an ACE score. Wait a minute, let me just double check, because I believe it's called an ACE score. Yeah. So an ACE score is it basically tallies up all your adverse childhood experiences, and it tells you basically like how likely you are to develop physical health problems later in life because of trauma that you experience. So, I mean, if anybody want to take it, that's always a great thing. But I wanted to say that in regards to like the Quran, when Allah was talking about, oh my God, I looked it up earlier and I forgot his name already. The prophet whose children basically put him in a well, I believe it was, and he cried so much until he went blind.
Prophet Ayub alayhi salatu wasalam.
Yes.
Has put his son.
He cried, he went blind.
Well.
Yeah. The stress that you are under because of traumatic experiences can really have a negative impact on you. So like if anybody want to like read about it more, it's this book called like The Boy Who Was Raised as a Dog, and it goes through multiple stories about people's growing up in traumatic experiences. And like one of them was talking about how this mother who had some developmental disabilities basically neglected her son's needs, like his like she used to leave him in a crib for hours. He didn't have no food, change diapers, nothing. So basically he learned that even if I cried, nobody's going to come. So he stopped crying and basically became a sociopath. He tried to talk to these two girls, and when they didn't want to talk back to him, he killed them and raped their dead bodies. Yeah. And he went home with blood on his boots like nothing happened. And he sat down and was watching the news and watching them uncover these women's dead body. And how they found him is because when a brother walked in and saw him watching the news and looked at his boots and saw the blood, he called 911.
What he did?
Don't worry about it. I'll talk to you about it later in another dream. But then you have people who have that same experience, and I'm quite sure people who are in the medical field, what is it called? Failure to thrive, and that's really based off of not nurturing your child emotionally, where it doesn't matter how much you feed them, what's going on, they fail to thrive, because it's important for babies to have connections with people in order to grow up, develop, and things like that. That's why a lot of orphanages are no longer utilized. Not saying that everywhere is gone, but the nurture that children need in order to survive is more than what orphanages could give. And as Black people, Black Muslims, I think that we're in a hard position, because a lot of people always like to be like, oh, slavery happened so long ago. It's called generational pass-throughs. Oh, hey, farmers. Generational pass-throughs. And things come from generation to generation to generation to generation. And it comes to a point that we got to say, well, this generation, this is where it runs out. It runs out here. And we have to be proactive about nurturing our children, because they are the ones that is going to take care of us when we get old. I mean, these millennials is crazy. Trying to raise these people who people want to have gender identity crisis and issues and things like that. But it was something that I wanted to talk about too, that Khalil wrote on his page about the dark psychology and manipulation. And it was some great stuff. That was great stuff. But I want to give the flip side, is that a lot of our problems mentally too is because we make them up in our mind. I know you might be like, well, what does that even mean? Because we decide to label something good or bad. Because if I gave you a ball, if I gave you Play-Doh and you started playing with it, what is that? Manipulation. Walaikum salam. That's manipulation. It's nothing wrong with the word in itself, manipulation. It's how you use it. my job as a therapist literally is to manipulate you into believing that you can change and restructuring and manipulating your thought process so that you can be happier. Like, that's literally my job. I can't tell you how many times I give people different ideas about how to think about a situation so that they won't have unnecessary stress. You know, they'll be like, oh my God, I'm so worried about what people think about me. And it's like, you're worried about them thinking about you. Okay. So what's the worst that can happen if they're thinking about you? Well, they may think that I'm shady or, whatever the case may be. Matter of fact, no, I'm gonna give you a good one because this was funny. This girl was crying in my office, talking about how her daughter called her a bad mom. She's this, she's that. She showed me the text messages. I read them all, and I said, "Where did your daughter say that you was a bad mom?" She said, "It's in there." I said, "Where?" I said, "Are you sure that that's what your daughter was trying to communicate, or you believe you're a horrible mom?" Well, I believe I'm a horrible mom. Well, we can work with that. What makes you a bad mom? Well, I wasn't there for my daughter when she was sexually assaulted. Okay. So, I help her process that, get all the feelings out about it, blah, blah, blah. Then it goes into, well, can you be there every time something happens to your child, every fall that she had? Because sometimes you go lower. Like, was you there for every fall that she had? Well, no. Was you there for every bad grade that she had? And just getting her to see that it's impossible sometimes to protect someone from everything. And it happened. It's horrible. It's bad. You feel messed up about it. But now, what can you do differently to build a relationship with your daughter so that it's not all this conflict? And teaching her how to not interpret what her daughter is saying to her through her own perspective and just negating everything that her daughter said. Because that's what she literally did. Because when I read the text messages, everything she said that her daughter was saying, her daughter wasn't saying any of those things. But we do that all the time. Somebody's talking to us and we interpret it to mean whatever it is that we want to mean, or we interpret it because it seems similar to something that someone else did. I got a bad rep in relationships because they be like, you this and you that. And I'd be like, no, that was your sister. That was your mama. That was this. This is who I am. This is my intention is not the same as theirs. But if you're not willing to see and you're not willing to work on it or any of those kinds of things, then it's not going to matter. So you have to really stop. I tell people do grounding techniques. And actually, Imam Muhammad had said something earlier like meditation. The best meditation that you can do is salat. That is the best meditation that you can do. People want to do all these fancy things. Like I give, people who are non-Muslim, grounding techniques and all that other kind of stuff. But really the best grounding is salat. It refocuses you, it recenters you, and all those kinds of things. And it was something else that Khalil wrote that I loved too, where he was talking about Game of Thrones, where he said he was so loyal to his death. I'm just paraphrasing. And it was said that no one is safe from disloyalty. And I totally agree with that statement. I agree so much so that I would like stamp that. I would get a stamp and put, because I want anybody to raise their hand that says that I'm consistently loyal to Allah. If we can't be loyal to Allah, how the heck we gonna be loyal to each other? Then sometimes we're so loyal to another person that we're worshiping them and we're disloyal to ourselves. disloyal to ourselves. So if I can't be loyal to Allah, I can't be loyal to myself, how can I be loyal to anybody else? And all I can ask people to do is try their best. That's, try your best. Allah's is it's his qadr. The outcome is by his permission. All you have to do is try. All you have to do is try. Manipulation has a negative connotation, period, but dark manipulation is manipulating an individual for your own benefit without caring about how it may affect the other person. Oh, no, I don't disagree with that. It's just I'm giving the other perspective because, again, like I wanted to try to be as balanced as I possibly can because, again, people may show up in a relationship and they may perceive the person to be manipulating them, and they're going to call it for what it is. Like, you are manipulating me, but it may not necessarily be for my own benefit. It may be to help you.
But isn't, a lot of relationships, I could be wrong, based on manipulation as well?
Absolutely.
Because I'm trying to, as a man, I'm trying to get what I can out of my wife. And as a wife, you're going to try to get what you can out of your husband. So it's like, a relationship is dang near based upon manipulation to a degree. That's all I want to say.
No, I agree. But I wanted to give the balance too, because sometimes people go like, I don't know if y'all ever heard of this, like character defects. I tell people, throw that character defects crap out of the window. Oh my goodness, I can't tell you how detrimental. I do not like it. I mean, I understand that in addictions, a lot of addicts utilize that tool, but no, because they'll say, oh my God, I'm so, I've had people like, I'm so selfish. I wanted to eat ice cream. I'd be like, is that selfish or is that self-care? And they're like, well, it is self-care. Yes. Now you can be selfish. I'm not saying it. But then once we get there, and if they be like, no, I really am selfish. Okay, well, how do we make it that come down to self-care? But sometimes it's readjusting what we think about what's right and wrong. Most things is gray. It's certain things that is wrong. You should not steal, kill, murder, worship other than the law, have a religion other than Islam. It's a lot of things that are wrong. And then you have things that are absolutely right. Giving charity, fasting, smiling to people. So, that's charity. All those things is good. And then you have the gray area. And the gray area is your intentions. So you can easily turn something good into something bad based on a gray area of your intention. I always say the gray area is your intention. Sometimes people have narcissistic traits and psychopaths do play mind games in a relationship. Absolutely. And some people are full out narcissists and people don't know. But
I think people know.
No, because you know what?
Let me tell you why I think people know, because, all right, we got to go back to our people, right? Our culture.
Mm-hmm.
We love narcissist behavior. You ever all right, prime example, you ever hear, we know the rapper 50 Cent, right?
Mm-hmm.
The rapper 50 Cent. He once said in his song, I tell a girl whatever she want to hear, right?
Mm-hmm.
So sometimes we want to hear something that we know it ain't even true, coming from somebody who know it ain't even good for us. We want to hear somebody say, sweetie, oh, you are look at you. You that. And we are lying, and we're lying, but sometimes we want to hear that. And that's a form of narcissistic behavior, but we're so used to it in our communities because we call it game.
Mm-hmm.
We call it running game. So sometimes I think we want to hear that type of stuff, but we don't want it to be wanted to flourish amongst other people. Sometimes we only want to hear it for ourselves. We don't want somebody to use it against someone else. So he got me with this, but I don't want to see him or her use that to get someone else. And I think that's one of our issues too. You can disagree, agree. I'm just saying, but coming from as a man, I've seen that a lot.
No, I'm not disagreeing, but I think that's a low level of narcissism. To me, that's just
It's narcissism.
It is narcissism, but I'm talking.
But it could be ran at the top. But it could be ran at the top peak because he can
I'm
get whatever
talking
he wants
about.
from a woman.
Listen, the top narcissists, right? Top narcissists. They come in, you know, they tell you all the things that you want to hear, and then what they do is they start to abuse you. And when I mean abuse, it could be spiritual, it can be financial, emotional, mental, and that's not an all-inclusive list. So, like, for example, I met someone who was a narcissist. Oh, goodness, this was interesting. And if I didn't have the mind that I have, I think that I would have been real messed up. I still was messed up, but I would have been worse. They tried to use the religion against me by writing. You know, I was tired one night because I was, you know, I'm working as a therapist, and emotionally that's draining. And they wrote on a board, like, cleanliness is half of faith. So I erased it, cleaned up, called it a day. They wrote it again. And basically that was a test to see, is she going to deal with my abuse? It wasn't full out like, rah, I'm, you know, going to tear you down. But it was a test. How is she going to handle it? And other things started to happen. That it became more obvious and more obvious of that person narcissism and using me and other people as a narcissistic supply to make them feel better about themselves. And narcissism, the gaslighting is, it's like say something happens, and I'm gonna use spiritual abuse. Say something happens, and they'll take something that is true in a religion and use it out of context inside of a relationship. And it fits. And see, what happens is because it's true in the religion, it happened, it makes me not blame you for what you did, but blame myself. Give you an example. So say a woman go through her husband's phone, find out he cheating. It's kind of easy to say this. Find out he's cheating. They'll say, well, you know, as a Muslim, you're not supposed to be snooping. That's true. So now I'm like, see, like, I shouldn't have been snooping. I would have never found out he was cheating. Like, this is crazy. Allah gonna punish me. I need to make tawbah. I gotta do all this stuff. I'm never going to do that again. Now they free to keep cheating because they got you hooked into believing that their cheating is only wrong because you caught them. That's how their narcissistic abuse works. They learn how to twist facts to their own advantage. You start apologizing for stuff that they did. I shouldn't have did it because I would have never known that they stole all that money from me if I didn't look at my bank account.
What you got to say, Abu Muhammad? Go ahead. It's on your bottom part of your face because I can't see your eyes. So it's like at the top, the bottom of your nose, see your face. I gotta hear that.
The cleanliness is closer to godliness, or the gaslighting part about, well, you're not supposed to be snooping. All right, now the cleanliness is closer to godliness. That's you could take that from different perspectives. You could take that spiritual cleanliness, cleansing the heart, cleaning your surroundings, being clean, your clothes, all of this stuff. But the snooping part, you know, you could always find someone that use things like that as a detractor to get the blame off of themselves. You know, but once you really take a good close look at it, the old saying come to mind: two wrongs don't make a right. Right?
Mm-hmm.
So both of you wrong, but both of y'all got to make it right too. You know, so it's like anything to support the excuse for not changing. You know, it's like that's like I think most of us deal with that type of behavior in relationships. You know what I'm saying? Either, you know, from the husband, the wife deal with that relationships from the husbands, or the husbands deal with them type of relationships from them type of situations from the wives.
Yeah, absolutely. And I have to agree with you, Jamila. The martyr complex and the covert narcissist. Woo! I'll just pass out. Just pass out. But yes.
Can I ask another question, y'all? It's for the women, right? What's the ratio, right? Or from you, you know, meeting these women, right? That you seen that they was with narcissist men, right? Because if it's high, right, could it be that, you know, like I said, deep down inside, we are choosing these type of people as well? Because sometimes we got to look at, you know, we got to be who we want, right? And then if we, like you said before, like if we're constantly picking these narcissists, can it be the effect that we like these narcissistic type of people?
Well, honestly, everybody has some narcissism in them. If you didn't, you wouldn't survive. I mean, like that's like I gotta make sure and put myself first so I can eat. You know, I'm not. You know, even the law says, save yourself and then your family. That's putting you first. You know, that's important. So we all have some little narcissism, and I'm using that very, very loosely. Well, then put it right there. I'll drink it. But then you have someone who's overbalanced, and it becomes that everything is centered around me. If it ain't me, it ain't right, and that's it. Now with narcissism, men are more likely to be narcissism, obviously, because it's just like, you know, whatever. You know what's dangerous about narcissist women? Narcissist women is more dangerous than narcissistic men. Because you got the Trumps of the world, the 50 Cents of the world. It's obvious. Narcissistic women, we teach women empathy. That's our number one goal, because she's going to be a wife, she's going to be a mother, so we got to teach her all these emotions, which makes her even better at manipulation and narcissistic abuse. And it's harder to recognize because we taught her how to express emotions that's not genuine. So I find that when I see men, yes, narcissists definitely love empaths. But again, as soon as I finish that, I'm going to address that about narcs and empaths. So as someone who is a woman, when you are raised to show empathy, it just makes it so much easier. And I find that men who are in relationship with narcissistic women are so much more messed up emotionally and mentally than the reverse.
He kills everybody: the dog, the cat, the goldfish, and the monkey in the house, because you know they couldn't take what was going on, you know.
And men are more likely to hide abuse because I'm a man. Nobody is abusing me. You can be abused too.
I had a joke with the brothers, right? I said that I'm with the call the police gang, right? Remember I said that on the live moment. I said I will call the police, I will send you to jail, and I will come visit you in jail, just like you know they do us, and cry, put my hand on the glass. You gonna sit in there for a little bit. You hit me. You go to jail. You gonna sit in there. I'm gonna put money on your books. I might bail you out and go to the court dates and everything.
Hey,
You know, but
hey, Abdul Mujeeb, man, that's kind of tricky. I had a friend growing up. We would all be kicking it. And you look over to him and he's reading something, but we find out he's reading an obituary. Like that. He was like, he obituary of this.
You snapping out of there?
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So that's kind of tripped out, man. You know, I remember when you had put that I'm calling the police on you, though.
Now say it one more time because we couldn't hear you.
I said that, you know, one of the guys I had grew up with, you know, all of us would be kicking it, and he'll be sitting reading something, and we'll ask him like, man, Rock, man, what you reading, man? He was like, man, I'm reading an obituary of this dude I smoked, right? So I'm like, this guy don't have no feeling for real, you know what I mean? So it's kind of tripped out. Cause I remember when we was having some issues, you know what I'm saying, Chicago, and we was like getting into it with these guys because we had moved the match there from 75th to 79th. So Imam Ameen, he had said, you know what, don't get into no dispute with anybody. Call the police, make a police report. And he was like, keep making police reports. So if something actually happens, it's already paper trail, and no one to get jammed up. You know what I mean? So alhamdulillah, nothing like that ever happened so much when we have all the police in Chicago opens the door on you.
I'm gonna, Abu Muhammad, I'm gonna faint and everything. She hit me, I'm gonna faint. I'm gonna fall on the ground. I'm gonna be extra. I'm gonna be extra, baby.
Oh my goodness!
If she stab you in your sleep, you calling the police, huh?
What?
Oh, if you stab, that's a shame. And empaths, people love to talk about how they're an empath. I think it's so amazing. They're like, yes, I'm an empath. Yeah, because you're traumatized.
What is an empath?
So, an empath is someone who can walk into a room and just feel the emotional energy of other people. However, what people don't realize about empaths is they only feel the emotional energy of negative people.
Okay.
It's not no positive. Listen, ask any empath. When you walk into the room and there's 9 people that's angry and 1 person is happy, do you feel that happy person feelings? They're like, heck no. I feel all the angry people. Did you notice that it was a happy person in there? No, I didn't even notice it. Because they learned growing up that they become hyper focused on spotting danger. So they had to be emotionally aware of what's happening to protect themselves. So, for example, if a father was a drunk that came home and, you know, he was abusive, but sometimes he wasn't, sometimes he wasn't. I mean, sometimes he was, sometimes he wasn't. So now I got to feel his energy to see, is tonight the night that he going to go off?
Okay.
Yeah, a lot of us men suffer from that. You know, me being in prison made me have to be that way. You know, because of the gang violence in New Jersey. You know, I'm from New Jersey, so we have, you know, a big Crip blood Latin King environment. So if you're in prison, you have to know. You know, you can relate to Abu Muhammad because you know you're from Chicago, so there's a lot of gang violence. So you have to know what gang is doing what's the energy like in this room. You got to be aware, and you're absolutely right. You got to, you know, and that's, you know, it's like a survival mode. So you're absolutely right.
Well, that is true, because even though my prison experience is like almost 3 decades ago, but the thing is that normally when you go on a tier, you can pretty much gauge in the atmosphere of what is really happening on that tier, right? Now, like in Stateville, is one of the maximum security prisons. It's like sometimes you have to be able to desensitize yourself in order to survive. And what I mean by that is that you can be in your cell. Someone could have had got hit outside your cell while you were asleep, right? When you wake up, you got a dead body in front of your cell. So you have to act like you don't see him, walk over that body and keep going, because if you're spotted, that could be your body. I mean, so you have to actually desensitize yourself, and like certain spots, like certain spots in that prison are like blind spots. An inmate can get killed in one of them spots, and you never know until the count is messed up. And then in some cases you never know until you smell the body. You know what I'm saying? So that's like that was like normal back in the 70s. Back in the 70s, the prison guards used to let KKK members in the prison to snatch black men out and go kill them. You know what I'm saying? Until a bunch of the inmates had got wing of it, and the prison went up in the early 70s, and they found out what was going on, and they squashed it. I mean, so it's like that. But back in the 70s, and this story, I'm only relating this from one of my old timers that grew up with my Umi had told me about this, you know. But by the time I came in the late 80s, early 90s, it was a different type of atmosphere. You know what I'm saying? It was a different type of atmosphere. So, but and it was the other thing too. I don't know how it is in Jersey or in PA, but in Illinois, it's a rule. Whatever happens in the street, stay in the street. You don't bring it into the prison. Whatever happened in the prison, stay in the prison. You don't bring that beef to the streets. So, for example, two factions or two people, they can be beefing in the street, but when they come to prison, they got to leave their beef outside of the prison, unless it's associated with a murder. Then that's something that's different. You know what I'm saying? But immediately they have, before it escalate, they have a conflict resolution to where it does not happen related to that murder that happened in the street.
So I wanted to address what Crystal said. She said some brothers have multiple wives but are still not happy. You're not happy with your 4 wives because you're just not happy. Ain't got nothing to do with your wives. And on top of that, like, you know, if you read the ayats about polygyny in the Quran, it never said, and you will be happy. Never said you will be happy. Again, happiness is between you and Allah. And you said that narcissists love multiple women. That
Why
comes
are they
with
the only ones that can get the women? Like the narcissists is the ones that walk around with the 4 women, ain't got the job,
I'm gonna
and
tell
then
you
all
why.
the 4 women taking care of them. You know how
I'm
they
gonna tell you why. You know why?
That ain't narcissism. That's
No, people confuse confidence with ability and, some type of morality. I can be a confident loser. Confident loser. Confident bum. Confident coward. But I can make you we call it the false ego. People walk around like they're something that they're not. And it can work both ways. You know, acting like someone who's a narcissist, because there's different types of narcissists. So some people they're very familiar with the Trump kind of a narcissist. But you have people that's covert narcissists. So basically they're the one like, I'm sick. Can you take care of me? I need help. I'm always failing at stuff. Can you do this for me? Can you do that for me? And you become basically their slave. and don't even realize it. Then you have the malignant narcissists, and they are the like most dangerous and heinous kind of narcissist. It's, you know, people think that Adolf Hitler was a malignant narcissist. Then you have, of course, the overt, which is Trump. Covert, okay, they kind of harder to spot. I can't think of nobody, a public figure that I would say, but there's a lot of people who are covert narcissists. Everybody's against me. Nobody likes me. Nobody loves me. Can you help me? I need. And then you're drained, and you're drained, and you're drained. And then when you decide to say,
that sounds like everybody on Facebook.
when you decide to put you first, everything is always about you. You listen, narcissistic abuse is the worst kind of abuse to come from. And not saying that because you experience narcissistic abuse means that the person is narcissistic. Sometimes people have, well, a lot of people have narcissistic traits. Again, like I said, everybody has some, you know, splinter of narcissism, but I always like to use this as spectrum. There's some people that's on one end of the spectrum and some people that's on the other end of the spectrum. And you got to go like 75% into the spectrum to be considered a diagnosis. But we all have a little bit of craziness going on. And that's why I said it's important not to try to diagnose people with stuff, because you don't know what you're doing. Because somebody can present as depressed. You like, they sit in your office, you're like, I'm so depressed, blah, 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 blah. And people will check off, oh, they're depressed with anxiety. The whole time, between time, they're covert narcissists, or they have borderline personality disorder. Yes.
I got a question.
Mm-hmm.
What would you call an individual, right? No matter how a brother, every woman that he's been married to, they never after they was married to him, they never remarry.
After they marry him, they never remarry.
Marry him. They could have been married a couple of times before they married him. They never remarry. Some of the women he's been married to may have remarried, but it's like a very small number.
The only thing is, that's kind of like really hard for me to say, because I would have to know the behaviors that he did in the marriage.
What if it wasn't all the same behavior in each marriage?
It's always the same. It just looks different.
It looks different to who?
It just looks different. Mm-hmm.
Or looks different to everyone, the women he was married to.
Mm-hmm. So, like, for example, you know, I'm more of a quote alpha female, right? So the way somebody may mentally abuse me is not going to be obvious. I might be in a relationship with somebody that's abusive, but it may not be as obvious. They slowly group me in because they know if they come full force, it's going to be like, oh, ninja, I'm about to two-piece you. Like, no, we're not doing that. But if you do it slowly, I don't notice it. And I'm a fixer by nature. So I'm always like, hey, well, how can we do this? How can we do? I'm very codependent. So how can we do this? How can we do that? How can we fix this? What do I got to do? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm doing all this stuff. But then you have that same person who's very abusive, but like, say the woman is a drug addict, you know, I can abuse you all day and who won't want you? So it might be full out like, you a B, you a hoe, I can do whatever I want. I'm going to cheat on you. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. But this other person, I'm still going to cheat on you, but I'm going to hide it. I ain't going to tell you. I'm going to keep it on the tuck, blah, 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 because I don't want you to find out, because I know you don't play that, but I'm still going to abuse you because that's who I am. It just looks different with each relationship, depending on a person's tolerance of the abuse. If that makes sense.
Assalamu alaikum.
Wa
Coming
alaikum
on our
salam.
final 10 minutes. Alhamdulillah, very interesting, interactive program tonight. Alhamdulillah. So, final 10 minutes, get y'all closing, reflective, and solutions, thoughts, closing. Inshallah.
Yes, build a community. That's the only, honestly, I feel like that's the only solution. Because then we start holding people accountable and we can be proactive. In America, we're very reactive. We're very, very reactive to problem. Instead of, so it's two things that are predictors. Poverty is a predictor of trauma, and trauma is predictive of re-trauma and traumatizing the kids, and then it becomes a circle. But if we're proactive, so if I have a mother who just had a baby and the husband is at work because he got 3-4 wives that he's trying to take care of, but I'm a sister, I live next door and I know that this woman just had a baby. I may go over there and check on her. Hey, let me take your baby sometimes. Let me watch them. So she won't have postpartum depression and then may be abusing a child because of her depression. When I say abuse, I'm using it very, very loosely. I'm not saying that it's intentional, but it helps mitigate that stuff. Even with each other as brothers, hey, I'm really going through something with my wife. Can you help me? And being proactive, holding each other accountable, women holding women accountable, men holding men accountable. But everybody doing whatever it is that they want to do. And when I say everybody, I'm speaking to myself first because, I got my, stuff too. I ain't perfect, mashallah. But we really need to build a community. That's like the number one thing that we need to do together that's going to be so hard to do because we're so suspicious of each other. We're so suspicious of each other. I'm going to get you before you get me. Oh, I ain't doing that because they're going to do that. And then I don't know if any of you ever heard of self-fulfilling prophecies. So basically, you believe something to be true, so you behave in a way that makes it true. And that's what we do with our paranoia with each other.
I heard of that before.
But that's all. That's my spill. That's my story, and I'm sticking to it.
SubhanAllah. One thing that you had touched on about community, about with a sister having a baby, just having a baby, and you next door, you going to check on her. One of the things that I had experienced in dealing with the Ethiopian community is that one, it was like about 7 brothers in Chicago that married women from Ethiopia. Right? 6 of them, they was actually Ethiopian women, and one is my wife that I was married to, a Nigerian woman, right? But she born in Ethiopia. When each one of them had a baby, for like the 6 weeks, either 2 of them or 3 of them or all of them go to the sister's house every day, help with the cooking, help with if it's other children, help with the other children. And for a lot of the husbands, whichever husband it is at that time, it used to be kind of like burdensome on them because before they come home, they got a call. They may come home at 3 o'clock in the morning, and they got all these women in their house. So, so it's like, you know what I'm saying? What are you gonna come home to? What are you gonna see? Right? So, like in my particular case, I have a lot of children. So in my particular case, I would come home and the children would meet me at the door. Right? The women, so we had like 2 bedrooms and it was like 3 other rooms. So the living room was a closed off room. So all the women would be in there. I mean, that's where everybody pray at, eat at, everything. So they'd be in there. The women would be in there. My wife at the time, she would be in her room, and my children would be in their room. But normally they're like, you know what I'm saying, if you come home at a certain time, then the children is the ones who you're gonna communicate through. I mean, be able to get you in, so you won't feel uncomfortable. Sometimes it doesn't always work, you know, and a lot of and sometimes it's not always the same women in the house. You know what I'm saying? Like one time, I think when Nessler was born, my ex-wife's best friend, this Ahlul Bayt, she came to visit, right? She came to visit like 2 weeks after Nessler was born. So I didn't know that she was coming. She just happened to pop up, but my wife knew that she was coming. When I got to my house, it was like hardcore military in that joint. The children were sitting down, nobody was running around. I'm like, Karen? What? I'm like, what's going on? What happened? You know what I'm saying? So, you know, that's one of the things that, you know what I'm saying, community, what I've noticed that with our African American women is that there's no connection or camaraderie like that. I mean, that I've noticed, and a lot of times it has to do with our upbringing and how we're used to dealing with each other, generational wise. I don't give it. Go get it. Tell I said bring it to.
Well, our women have two problems. One, I can't tell you how many black women I hear say, I don't have women friends. That's the strangest thing to me. I've never had a woman. I mean, I don't have men friends. I have absolutely no men friends. Period. For what? What are you going to do for me? If we're not getting married, then there's nothing we got to talk about. And then number two, we think that they're going to marry our husband.
Now I thought I was petty. That's petty. That's petty.
It's the truth. It's the truth. She gonna marry my husband. I'm about to go downtown, get legally married, and I'm gonna threaten him and tell him he ain't gonna be able to see his kids. That's the dumbest thing I ever heard in my life. I'm never gonna stop you from seeing your kids because I need a break.
Go marry your husband in the Commonwealth and the state ain't gonna stop him from getting another wife.
Listen, but he getting these kids.
He gonna get another wife. You know what I mean? That's straight up. That ain't stopping him.
Yes, but again, this is not all inclusive because I didn't even talk about boundaries, anxiety, worrying about the future, depression, worrying about the past, all that. That's why I said mental health is really complex. This is just a broad overview. And inshallah, please seek professional help if you need it. But also remember that 90% of therapists are trash, 6% are okay, and the other 4% are amazing. So keep shopping around until you find somebody that you like. I know that's just horrible, but it's the truth.
All right, so look, right? I know we about to get ready to close out, but we want y'all to have we invite you back on when we talk about polygyny since it keep coming up, inshallah. What y'all say, brothers? We done did it before, but I think this one will be a little bit more interesting. I think so.
Right.
So we'll try to maybe next week, inshallah, we'll work it out, inshallah.
Hey,
next Friday.
I'm definitely pro polygyny and can help women see the benefits of being in polygyny. You know, it's more benefits being in polygyny than there are cons. It's just we so used to seeking the cons that we don't see the benefits of it.
See what this is right here? Mistrust, jealousy within our community of women. That's why.
But again, we gotta.
Well, we're gonna have that conversation, and we're gonna do it from a psychoanalysis perspective. You know, we ain't gonna
Yes.
have it shooting from the hip. You know, my feelings is this, and the brother did that, and the sister. Now we gonna come like hardcore, like y'all coming tonight. We gonna hit that joint head on. I think it's gonna be lit. That's what
No,
I think.
because psychologically, it really is a benefit. People just don't realize because they so wrapped up in their own crap that they don't realize the benefits of being in polygyny.
Psychological benefits of polygyny.
Psychological.
Economics, physical, emotional.
Alhamdulillah, shukran, Sister Eva. Alhamdulillah.
Alhamdulillah.
So, I guess anybody got any last closing words before we close out? If you gonna say anything, Muhammad, you gotta make the dua too.
My only advice is that may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala cause all of us, bless all of us to become righteous Muslims.
Ameen.
Consistent righteous Muslims, and utilize the able us to utilize the sources and the provisions that he provided us with in regards to dealing with our problems, right? Spiritually, emotionally, and psychologically. Subhanaka Allahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilayk. Subhana rabbika rabbil izzati ma yasifun wa salamun ala mursalin walhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم.
All right. Inshallah, I guess I'll see you guys next Friday.
Yep. Inshallah.
Now, I gotta go to work. So.
Okay, inshallah. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to share. Don't forget to like, share hearts, all that good stuff. Share it. Inshallah. Subscribe. Pass it on. Inshallah. We'll see you next week. Same time, same back channel. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.